Now, a safeguard to protect rural beauty spots from fracking, or a sop to help Conservative candidates in marginal seats. Those were the conflicting claims today as ministers published planning guidance for companies wanting to drill in national parks or outstandingly scenic areas. Either way, offering exploration licences for fracking, covering more than half the country, has prompted a fairly seismic political row. We'll debate that in a moment, but first, Jane Death reports.
Fenhurst in the South Downs National Park, the latest place to get fractious about the possibility of fracking. Celtic Energy has applied to the National Park Authority for permission to drill to see what lies beneath. The company says fracking in the future is not inevitable, but it's not ruling it out either. The decision on what happens in the fields over there will be a test case, because it will be the first time there's been an application to explore for oil or gas in a national park. Today, the government's offered a new batch of licences for companies interested in exploring fracking, which is blasting water into rock to release gas. The licence gives the company exclusive rights to explore and go for planning approval. Licences have already been approved for fracking companies to explore, from the Bowland Basin in the northwest to the Weald in southeast England. Today's new round of licences opens up a huge area, around half the country. But the government's reassuring us that licences to explore under protected areas in England, such as national parks, will be refused, except in exceptional circumstances. Fenhurst campaigner Caroline Randall wonders what exceptional circumstances means. The government told us it was hard to say because every case is different. But national parks like this could still be explored if it's, quote, in the national interest.
I think they are determined to go ahead.
And how would you feel if they were allowed to explore further here?
I've been a Conservative all my life. I will no longer be a Conservative. But I don't know where I would turn, since I think all the other parties support it as well.
The government will hope tighter protection of areas like national parks will placate Tory voters and Tory MPs. The local MP, Andrew Tory, has expressed support for fracking, but not in this corner of his constituency. In the south, the places with untapped shale gas potential are largely Conservative areas, although today the government denied its announcement is designed to appease the Tory heartland. One South Downs MP said both energy and environment can be secured.
We'd rather not import so much gas from places like Russia. Equally, we have some of the most beautiful landscapes in the world. They're highly protected for a reason, and we need to make sure they stay that way. So this is about a balance, and that's why today's announcement is welcome.
This was another site just outside the national park Celtic Energy wanted to explore. Last week, the council turned them down, saying it would cause too much traffic. Nathan Stride helped win that battle and warns there'll be more.
It's almost like a dad's army approach. You know, I'm quite happy to look after my sort of 5 square miles, but there's another group looking after their 5 square miles, and we all talk to each other and look out for each other. So it works quite well and quite effective. So I'm quite proud that I'm a NIMBY and we've achieved what we have here.
But with potentially decades of shale gas under the ground, the pressure's only going to build.
Well, I'm joined now by the Conservative MP Jacob Rees Mogg, and from Manchester by the anti-fracking campaigner Tina-Louise Rothery. Jacob Rees Mogg first. Is this announcement today going to allow more fracking in what George Osborne's father-in-law called the desolate north?
Looking at a map of England, the south of England has more AONBs and the north of England has more national parks. Combined, it's probably pretty even that there are large areas in both the north and the south that will now have a considerably higher level of protection. So I don't think it's to do with the north-south divide.
Well, do you know what, though? If you look at what's been announced today, the Community Secretary will have more power to intervene, so he could quite easily protect, all those rural South Downs Tory seats, couldn't he?
No, because the Secretary of State has to act in a quasi-judicial position. if he randomly supported his Tory mates and put nasty things in Labour areas, the judges would be quite rightly down on him like a ton of bricks. So it doesn't work like that. And no sensible Secretary of State assumes his party will be in office forever. So if he could do that, then a socialist Secretary of State could do the same in return.
Tina-Louise, this could actually be good news in the north, couldn't it? Given that there are more, geographically speaking, there are more national parks in north of England and Scotland.
I suppose it depends on how you rate your news. I mean, for good news, we'd be looking at having a happy society where our children could grow up with fresh air and clean water and not run risks with those things. The good news would be the profits for shareholders in the industry, and that doesn't really affect us. Lord Brown, even the head of Quadrilla, came out and said it wouldn't lower our gas prices. So where are those gains for us?
But when you think about the fact that today there'll be more protection in national parks, that is potentially good in the north of England and Scotland, isn't it?
I'm so sorry, I missed a part of that, but you talked about the national parks, about protecting them?
Yes, and there's more in the north of England and Scotland, so that's...
Yeah.
To be
but,
welcomed,
you know, that protection does come with a caveat, doesn't it? Which is that the Community Secretary, Eric Pickles, can overrule a local authority and say that it's in the country's best interest to drill anyway. So it's not much of a guarantee, is it? It feels a very weak promise that they made a lot of news out of something very weak.
Jacob Rees-Mogg?
Section 116 of the guidelines says the exceptional circumstances that may be used by the Secretary of State to allow hydraulic fracturing to take place. They set a very, very high hurdle. This is a major protection for the most beautiful areas of our countryside, but crucially, it also allows us to begin to extract the reserve of 2,000 trillion cubic feet of gas, giving us security from Russia, a degree of separation from global markets, cheaper energy for poor residents of the United Kingdom who are living in fuel poverty, and it's good for industry, which would be more competitive.
Tina-Louise?
I'd like to know how he says it's cheaper energy when it's been confirmed that it will not lower gas prices.
The chief of Quadrilla says
in the United States, the price fell from 10 cents per cubic foot
it's a different market. We sell on the European market.
I accept it's a different market, but nonetheless, in the US, it fell from 10 cents to 2.5 cents. The price went down by a quarter.
But we work on a different market, Mr. Mogg.
Okay.
Even if we had a fraction of the benefit of the United States, it would bring lower prices, and it crucially brings energy security. We would no longer be dependent on Qatar or other overseas countries diverting their energy potentially to foreign markets if Russia got even more difficult and complicated and more sanctions were imposed.
May I ask
energy security is hugely important.
Let's bring Tina-Louise in.
Yes. Is that gas only going to be used for the UK, in your opinion?
Well, gas is actually quite expensive to transport, so the home market for gas is usually the market that gets the greatest benefit.
I know you're saying usually and maybes, but when we put our gas on the market, it goes into a European market. It is not earmarked for British use. I also wonder at the words exceptional circumstance. What's an exceptional circumstance when it comes to drilling in a national park or an area of outstanding natural beauty? What constitutes an exceptional circumstance?
OK, and on that exceptional circumstance, the Community Secretary can basically make his own decision on what those circumstances are.
No, he can't. It's set out in the National Planning Policy Guidelines, section 116, which sets out the circumstances, which includes things like the effect on the local economy, if that were a very substantial benefit for the local economy, and against the benefits from tourism from an area of outstanding natural beauty. It's a very high hurdle.
Today, the go-ahead has been given for potentially drilling in national parks.
I think you are looking at it the wrong way around. I think it's making it much harder for drilling in national parks, but probably, yes, the go-ahead has been given in other parts of the country, which is hugely welcome and important.
Tina-Louise, final word?
Essentially, then, that exceptional circumstance is if the drilling will bring more cash than the area of outstanding natural beauty does through its tourism, then we're going to say OK.
That's one of the circumstances. It has to be exceptional. That just a little bit more money would not be exceptional.
So it's based on how much more profit? So all of this is just an economic chat.
I'm afraid we've completely run out of time. Tina-Louise, Jacob Rees-Mogg, thank you very much for joining me. John.